Hello, good evening, good morning to those that will hear this later. I am your host, Jason Miles, and welcome to another episode of This is Revolution Podcast. We are doing a special episode today. As you see, it's a little different than what we usually do here on Wednesdays. Mac could not make it. He might not be around for the next few weeks. So I wanted to do Wednesday. This is going to be a little different from what you guys are used to on Wednesday night. The freewheeling line crossing insanity will return, but today we'll have a more measured, meaningful discussion. It will go off the rails, but just a tad. Ryan Zickgraf is a professional. And if Jacobin finds out he was on here talking reckless, he's done. It's over for him. Bhaskar won't have it. It's not a good look. Also, if you dig the listener-supported programming we have here on TIR, morning shows like we did yesterday with music legend David Garfield. We're doing another show on Sunday, which is very rare for us to do a Sunday show. Well, I mean, I guess there's Ben and Stefan, but that's Ben and Stefan. I'm talking about Jay Miles doing a special Sunday show. Think about becoming a patron for as little as $3 a month or $30 for the year. You can make sure TIR can continue this breakneck pace of shows. Speaking of shows, on April 17th, Ben Burgess and I will be back in my hometown of the San Francisco Bay Area for a live show. The El Rio at 6 p.m., April 17th, wherever you are watching or listening to this later, there are links in the description for you to get tickets to that show. It's a small, intimate gathering, so it may sell out soon. It could be sold out right now. I don't know. Sadly, Ben and I do not have access to the ticket numbers. But if you are a patron of TIR, you get a discount. What? That's right. Patrons get 20% off on the ticket for the live show in San Francisco, which I'm pretty stoked about. Get to see some old friends. I tried to guilt my younger children into going. We'll see if they want to go. There's really nothing you could, like, I couldn't sell them on anything. Like, do you want to see Dad perform? And they're like, no, not really. It was not really a performance. It's more of a talk. It's like, oh, that sounds worse than performing. Like, am I that not cool? They're like, yeah, you're that not cool. But I don't know. Try harder to make us feel bad. Maybe we'll care. But today we're going to talk a little bit about everyone's favorite person to hate for some reason, Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan's rise to cultural prominence has been less a rocket ship to stardom and more like a slow, steady Greyhound bus ride to success. The Joe Rogan Experience is by far the most popular podcast in America and has been for most of the last decade. But how did Rogan ascend to this position of influence? As our guest today, Ryan Zickgraf, aptly describes in his latest Jacobin article, Rogan was once a C-list celebrity, an actor and comedian who played bit roles in shows that never gained mainstream traction. In the early 2000s, he became the face of the reality TV gross-out show, Fear Factor. I also think Fear Factor kind of made him hate poor people. I think he's one of those people that watched, like, The Running Man. Or I could see Joe Rogan actually reading the book and being like, yeah, poor people are horrible. And later was a ringside commentator for the UFC. With a modest amount of notoriety, Rogan launched a podcast that initially featured himself and fellow comedians most at a similar level of success, engaging in a long, rambling conversation for hours on end, kind of like what we do here. Just a little, like this much. I think we're funnier, though. In many ways, not much has changed about the show's format, but what has changed is Rogan's guest list, now populated by powerful figures and influencers who command significant sway over public opinion, even public policy. That is kind of crazy that his show has gone from like him and people like Bobby Lee and other comedians that no one knows because they're not that funny. And now he talks to like presidents. Rogan has carefully cultivated an everyman persona, positioning himself as someone who, like the average person, knows that propaganda is everywhere and that governments and politicians lie. He dabbles in conspiracy theories. Is it a dabble, or is it does he dive? I think dabble is the appropriate word, particularly in the post 9/11 era when distrust of institutions surged, and has long been an advocate for drug legalization. For many of his fans, Rogan was never a partisan propagandist like another person that a lot of people in this universe hate, Jon Stewart, but rather a guy who wanted to hear both sides. But in the wake of COVID-19, the COVID-19 vaccine panic of 2020-21, Rogan's politics shifted. No longer flirting with earlier liberal leanings, he now cozies up to more far-right figures and his 1% friends who have an ideological framework that mirrors his own, evolving libertarian sensibilities that are opposed to taxation of the wealthy and workers' rights. To get into this maturation of Joe Rogan, I have my friend that wrote a great article about Joe Rogan in Jacobin, wherever you are watching or listening to this show. There's definitely links in the description. Please welcome Ryan Zickgraf.
Hey.
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm writing my own Greyhound bus to success album. It's probably more like a go-kart at this point. But
did you like that, the Greyhound bus to success?
Yeah, that was a great metaphor.
Please feel free to take that one. I will be honored if I read that you took that line. Joe Rogan has wrote a bit of a Greyhound bus to success. If you look at the thumbnail for this show, I found some very early images of him as he's trying to break through any way he can.
I got to say, the guy was a kind of a looker. He's pretty hot.
He was an attractive man, not the tallest.
Yeah.
Right. But Hollywood height doesn't necessarily matter all that much.
No, Tom Cruise, Michael J. Fox, Joe Rogan. Hello? I think you froze.
Uh-oh, did you lose me for a second?
Yeah. Okay, you're back.
Sorry, I'm back. Yeah, that's Mexico for you. It's one of the downsides.
Oh, I lost what you were saying about the hotness of Joe Rogan.
Hopefully he clips that, and that's hey, these guys were talking about me. Hey, Benny, pull that clip up. So you was this an assignment for you, or is this something you're working on?
So Boscar approached me. I'm doing a whole year-long series on the Manosphere, the bro influencers. So this was actually the first of many. And Rogan is sort of the king of the bro manosphere. So gotta start with the king.
Is he the king, or is he the intro drug?
I think he's still the king. I mean, his podcast has dipped a little bit, but he's still got the throne. He's got his Austin Comedy Club. Who's your king if he's not it?
The king of the manosphere?
Yeah.
I think you mentioned it kind of in your piece that he's all over the board. I think he's just a guy that, as he was rising to success, had a certain amount of freedom vocally that a lot of people felt constrained by. So for example, let's just use Tucker Carlson and Jon Stewart as two ends of a spectrum of liberal and conservative. They necessarily don't say what they want to say. They kind of speak within the confines of their audience. Joe Rogan kind of cultivates his own audience that doesn't really exist within those binaries necessarily.
Yeah. I mean, he's not Tucker Carlson. He's not a traditional political commentator. And when I say manosphere, I'm not totally using that like in a negative connotation. I mean, I think in a lot of sense, it's a result of a lot of, masculinity, straight white guys ending up on YouTube together and cultivating their audience. But no, he's not a typical right-wing Fox News guy. He just slowly, as you said in your intro, just sort of evolved that way. And especially over the last even year or two, that's really accelerated.
What did someone say? The manosphere is a baseball, and Randy Johnson's fastball made him the king of the manosphere. I mean, like I said, I think he's an interesting figure. But how does he go? And this is the part of his rise that I find the most interesting, because he does exist in this moment where celebrity is extremely a relative term, where I think we're old enough, and I know I got you by a few years, but you're still old enough to remember where celebrity meant like people knew who you were. If you mentioned it to your parents, they knew who that person was. They may not know, like Michael Jackson, for example. My kids know who Michael Jackson is, and he was dead before some of them were born, right?
Yep.
That's a celebrity. Michael Jordan, even Wayne Gretzky. I know who Wayne Gretzky is. I have never in years of life watched a hockey game, but I know who Wayne Gretzky is, right? Joe Rogan, there's people that love his show that don't know, outside of maybe UFC, the news radio stuff. They don't know his comedy bits. He doesn't have a popular. You would think he'd take that and go do, shitty Netflix specials, but he doesn't. It's like he knows what he's good at. And he does that thing. So how does he go from being an unknown to the largest voice in media?
Well, I think when you say unknown, that's overstating it. I mean, like you said, I even know who he was back in the early 2000s. I mean, Fear Factor was like a primetime show on NBC, and it was this crazy reality show where, it was actually kind of like a YouTube show, but 20 years ago, where he made people do like crazy stunts, like be in a giant vat of spiders or snakes, and it was just to see how long people would last while doing the dumbest shit imaginable. But that kind of disappeared. He got canceled. And he tells the story in this like Netflix comedy special. He said it's because they had them eat donkey cum.
Yeah.
And that was like, it went too far for the executives. So that's when they canceled them. So that was, I think, in like 2003, 2004. Well, after that, I think a few years later, he was doing some more stand-up tours. And he was known a bit for being like the UFC commentator, because the UFC was still marginal at the time, but it was slowly getting a little momentum. But so I think it was in 2007 is when he first started the podcast. And at the time, I mean, 2007 podcasting didn't really exist hardly at all.
Not really.
There was like, like the old Ricky Gervais show, NPR, like This American Life was being turned into a podcast, but he was a bit of a pioneer in podcasting, which probably helped a bit. But I think that he was one of the first to really do sort of a hangout show. And the hangout show, there's a lot of content like that. I mean, even this conversation is a bit like a hangout show, right? But it's like a casual conversation. It can be meandering. You joke around a lot. You just kind of feel like you're hanging out with kind of like friends. And so that's something that he was good at, is not only just like hang out with people, but a lot of times like really funny or really interesting people. He would have his like rotating group of comedians, friends of his. And then also just like he would have on like these like UFO conspiracy theorists, like
people you've never heard of unless you were on certain corners of the internet. Yeah.
And people that would not be in mainstream media because no one would take them seriously. And he would take them seriously in a lot of ways. I mean, part of what's interesting about listening to him is that he often, I don't even know if it's like playing along with them, but he does take people seriously. I mean, he sometimes like will call out bullshit, but a lot of times when he has like even conspiracy theorists telling stories, he often will kind of, go along with what he's saying and kind of tends to agree. Now on a next show, he might say something completely different, but you get the sense of like being at a bar with this UFOologist or a comedian or whatever, and just shooting the shit. And so I think that he took that form and, again, just slowly built this audience at a time when, as you say, there was a fragmentation of the mainstream,
the fear factor thing, and in UFC, how do you think the commentary there helped kind of cultivate that everyman persona? There was something about him on those early days of Fear Factor where he would even have this, and he talks about it on his show. He's talked about it in interviews, because I do think that's something about that show that was jarring for him. Seeing the limits, or maybe the lack of limits, of what people are willing to do for a couple of bucks, because it's not that much money at the end of the day. Like $10,000 may seem like a lot, but it's like I can't stop working for $10,000. I have to still do this show. I can't tell you guys to go fuck yourselves and hang out with hookers all day. You
do underestimate though that the call, even if it's not money for doing something crazy on TV. I don't want to go too far into it, but I was almost on Married at First Sight like 10-15 years ago, and I almost got married for $1,000 an episode. So
was it 30 episodes?
No, it was like 12. So at most, I was going to get married on TV for $12,000.
Were you going to be able to bang the chick?
Well, that's if you get
you
married,
would hope, right? That's not in the contract, then I don't know if you could do it.
I probably said that in my interview. The problem though is I couldn't get matched with anybody because I'm too ridiculous, and like they're like, who is your biggest celebrity crush? And I was like, I mean, at the time she was not a super right-wing person, but I was like, Laura Logan from 60 Minutes, and they're like, no, this guy.
I thought you were gonna say Kennedy from MTV in the 90s.
No,
that would have been insane.
I get that. I dig that though. she also became right-wing though, by the way.
Super. Yeah. But if you would have said that, I would have been like, just put him on air. This guy might be on the spectrum in a way we've never seen before.
Yeah. No, I didn't go on that, but I did go on a game show earlier this year, and I only won $5,000, and I was on 3 episodes. So they're all cheap, man. all the reality shows are super cheap.
Yeah, that's why I'm like, you're gonna go on there. Like, I get it. When things got bad, there was a moment where there was a show called Wife Swap, and I was married, and it was bad, and me and my now ex-wife were like, let's try to apply to Wife Swap.
Whoa, was that the beginning of the end?
That was of our marriage. I mean, yeah, we're already on our way out, but we were just really
Okay.
we had lost everything when the market crashed, and it was like, maybe we can make enough money. Like, this is desperation talking, and I totally understand desperation and bad decisions, but there's something, I don't want to say kind, but I felt like he would look at people sometimes and be like, you don't have to do this. Don't do this. This is a tank full of scorpions that will hurt you. Like, why
Well,
do you think we care?
I think that what comes out in that show and even on his podcast is that he does seem like a very ordinary dude.
Yeah.
He's not pretentious. He doesn't really like talk down to anybody, and there's not a lot of polish to his performance. It's just kind of like he is who he is. And it's something that I mentioned in my article that, like, when he interviewed Trump, he talked about Trump being like this no bullshit, even though he is full of shit, kind of like he has his own kind of authenticity. And I think Rogan does too.
Yeah. No, that's actually a good point. I also think the UFC thing helped, because if you are a weirdo like me, I've been following that shit since it was like a cockfight. This guy thinks he knows karate. This dude just woke up out of a cocaine alcohol stupor yesterday. They're gonna fight. I don't know if he wasn't ring announcing quite then, because I don't think Dana White owned it from its inception, but it was still pretty crazy in those early days. And the fact that he was the ringside announcer for this, kind of brutal form of combat sport gave him a certain cachet. And then the more that he talked, it was like, well, why is this comedian here? And it's like, oh no, Joe Rogan fought, I believe, professional. I think he had some professional fights
Yeah.
in some martial art. I forget which one it is, but it's not Aikido. It is not Aikido. It's a legitimate one.
Yeah, he's kind of a Renaissance man, even though it's like the stoner Renaissance, but
that's where we are. It's supposed to happen. You legalize drugs, man. That's what you people get. You get Beavis and Butthead. Did Rogan's initial success come from filling a gap in mainstream media, or was it his willingness to platform fringe voices, you think?
I'd say probably both. I think like that period where he started to get even bigger was, kind of like the Trump 1 era, 2016 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a time, and even 2020 was like a new level, but 2016 to 2020 was a time when the mainstream media and like entertainment sort of, they're like, we need to de-emphasize white guys, masculine, we have toxic masculinity, so we're not going to like feature them on entertainment as much. And so there became this like underground that Joe Rogan was a big part of, and he started to get this audience, I think, of other like disaffected young men who felt like, yeah, he was someone, a safe space, if you will, for the bros.
Dude, you listen to Rogan, it's like a safe space. He doesn't call us misogynists.
Exactly.
He says broad and everything, but he doesn't. I don't think Joe Rogan speaks really ill of women.
Oh no, I don't think so either. I mean, he does like some locker room talk. They you might hear the word pussy, but it's not in the like the Fox News. It's not in the some of the extreme right wingers who are basically like, women should go back to not being able to vote and make me a sandwich kind of thing.
Oh, that just sounds like a nightmare, actually. Just a woman just not being able to do anything, having to fix you food. It's like a recipe for being poisoned. Um, how does Joe Rogan serve as an intro drug for young men's first exposure to the manosphere, in your opinion?
Well, like over time, what's happened is that, you know, Rogan was one of the first of these kind of shows, but a lot of his comedian friends ended up doing podcasts like his, where they were, you know, they were on a show. And, you know, there was a interesting Business Insider article recently that showed all of the connections. Like they did this like unit, you know, the Rogan verse, whatever. Because a lot of these guys now have each other on all the time, and they share a lot of the same guests. So you could watch Rogan and see like Lex Friedman or some of these other guys, and then you know, you might even on YouTube say, oh, click on this show, or you might autoplay it to another one of these guys. And so it, after a while, it kind of feels like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but with dudes. You know, and you gotta keep up. You gotta watch the next one to see what, you know, continue the conversation. So it's fascinating.
That's it. And sometimes it's a lot of celebrity stories and fighting stories. I think that a lot of his show is, we were at the Comedy Store this one time in Kinnison, blah blah blah, and then there was a time that, you know, it's a lot of famous guy stories, which, you know, sometimes can be interesting.
Yeah, that's what, there's a ton of podcasts like that where it's just like famous people telling like a behind the scenes look. I remember a really annoying version of it. Did you ever listen to the Nerdist podcast? That was a podcast like that was in they had their own network. It starred this dude on MTV that had his own show. Why can't I think of his name? But all of this, you know, half the podcast would be talking to comedians about comedy, and that's a lot of what Rogan does. Is he just literally like, okay, it's funny people talking about just random stories, and you're like, okay, cool. I feel like I have an inside look at what the comedy world is, and he just tells like, you know, dumb shit. Like I you know, I was at the bar, and you know, I took the biggest shit in the world, and and the guy next to me could hear it, and he had, you know, it's just like, again, there's like hardly any filter. Now, unfortunately, what that means is the no filter means maybe talking to Nazis, but
okay, so is that the thing about him in the manosphere? Then is the thing that he does this thing, for example, like he'll have Cornel West on.
Yeah.
And there's this thing that even people that watch shows like this do. If you have person X on your show, that means you and person X are ideologically lockstep. And you think the same. And if you say something contrary to what person X says that came on your show, then you're the sellout or the grifter, or insert pejorative here.
Okay, Joe Rogan, this sounds like a leftist podcast.
right? That's what happens, right? Like,
yeah.
You know, you had so he had Cornel West on his show. He's had Dave Chappelle on his show. That's about all the black people I know. He had Cat Williams on it. What was funny was Cat Williams is responsible for being the most popular interview in YouTube history. But white people don't know how to talk to him because Cat Williams talks about really fringe black people shit. And I still don't know how that episode with him and Shannon Sharp got so many views, because when he went on Rogan, that was one of the worst interviews I've ever seen. They were just stoned out. I'm sure you watched that, or did you just not watch any interviews he did with black people? If you didn't, that's fine. It would have been 2.
Yeah, like you said, it had to dig deep. So no, I didn't see any.
I can't even think of maybe a fighter.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, and even when he talks like Rampage Jackson, I don't know. Do you really want to watch him and Rampage Jackson talk about, maybe Rampage having some sexual assaults in Japan? Like, there's
What about what's his name? Jones, the UFC
John
fighter.
Jones
John
again.
Jones.
Again, do you want to hear him talk to some man that is just mentally unstable? Talking about beating the shit out of people, cheating, doing steroids. Like his
It would be interesting to have to hear Rogan if he had it on like Kendrick Lamar, but instead he's having on like Kid Rock.
I don't know if it would be like Cat Williams, but even worse.
Yeah.
Because at least Cat Williams is equally as crazy, and Cat Williams is going to say nonsense. Like, I read 9,000 books a year. No, you didn't. Who the fuck are you, Cat Williams? You're not. No, stop. But he's an interest. So, but he'll have these people on, and then he'll have like a race science person on.
Yeah.
And he'll just nod along.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of talked about that as a strength, but sometimes it is a weakness because, I think I mentioned this in my Jacobin piece, but he has a stretch where recently in the last few months where he's had Zuckerberg on, and they'll just talk about like, oh, Facebook is actually awesome, good job, you guys, you're doing it. And then he had Woody Harrelson on. And during the Woody Harrelson episode, I was like, man, Joe Rogan sounds like a leftist again. So, I mean, maybe if you're stoned, you just go with it. You just vibe with whatever the person is in the room. Because it still feels authentic. But then if you think about it, you're like, dude, what do you actually believe? I don't know.
Because that's it. Because I think he's probably cool with Woody Harrelson to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Is it just that he less than vibe? Because that sounds a little more organic. Does he just mimic the person in front of him because he understands that he has to produce X amount of hours? And he's like, well, I'm in here for the long haul. Like you mentioned, he talked to Ben Burgess in 2022.
Yeah.
Which was a big deal for Ben. It's a big deal for any of us to get on that show. And if you think about who from the left has been on the Joe Rogan show, we can probably name it on one hand. Abby Martin, but he has Abby on to make her sound like a conspiracy theorist. Right. Ben, Bernie Sanders, Cornel West. Who else? I'm asking because I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I can't immediately, there's not a lot that like. What did he have Tulsi on? He had Tulsi on when she was still a Democrat.
Sure. Whatever that means, but sure.
Man, Tulsi, yeah. I was sad she unfollowed me on Twitter.
Oh, word?
Yeah.
Well, you're okay. You're a married man now. You don't need to follow this. There's nothing. You don't give a shit about her politics. You're just waiting for more of those fucking squat videos.
No, if I married at first sight, Tulsi, I wonder
how bad your kid's skin would be.
Harsh.
Oh, someone says crystal ball. Sure. Yeah, I guess crystal ball. Crystal ball counts. There you go.
Okay.
You guys
Crystal ball was on Joe Rogan.
She was on Joe. I think she's been on a couple times.
Okay. Yeah, she's good.
I mean, but it's strategic when these people get on there. It's to yell at Democrats, which is whatever.
But yeah, like I said, it was like last week or 2 weeks ago when he was on, when Woody Harrelson was on. And Woody Harrelson is a bit of like an outsider, Hollywood celebrity as far as like his politics, but he kind of vibes with RFK Jr., I'd say, where it's a little bit of make America healthy again, but he's kind of like a hippie with like, some leftist instincts. And it was a pretty good talk. But then he had Elon and Musk on like the episode before, and it was complete garbage.
The Ponzi scheme of Social Security.
Yeah. Yeah, it was awkward though, because I'd say, maybe it's Elon Musk's weird energy, but they did not gel very well. And I know it's like the third or fourth time that Musk has been on it.
He's been on there a few times. I mean, these guys understand the importance of the Joe Rogan conversation as a place to get your propaganda out there in a way that you won't be challenged. And I think that's the important part of who Joe Rogan is, kind of as a platform for anyone's propaganda. And we have to ask the question why it's so hard for certain left figures to get on there. Had Ben not, Ben wrote a few books, and he wrote a book called Canceling Comedians as the World Burns. And I think that title, the fact that Ben did a Majority Report thing and was on Michael Brooks' show, that helped. It helped a lot. Will he ever be back on there? I doubt it. And it's not a knock on Ben at all. It's more of, you served a purpose to kind of talk about, I think people don't understand cancel culture.
Mm-hmm.
Either it doesn't exist, or it's like, but why do people say things like we have to get rid of this person? It's because it definitely exists in some way, shape, or form. It may not be as effective as person X would want it to be, but it's definitely a thing, and it changes the way these people can perform. Nobody wants to, walking out into a lukewarm crowd is just part of being a comedian, right? Or a host. I don't know if you still host your trivia.
Yeah, I did last night, and it was rough.
It's a thing, right? There's going to be nights where it's great. There's going to be nights where it's really lukewarm. It's different when, everyone treats you like Kramer.
Yeah, though you should probably stop saying racist things if you want that to happen.
Oh, well, guess what's not going to happen over here, Ryan? Not at all, bro.
I'm speaking for myself. No, I'm kidding.
Oh, well, yeah, you need to stop saying racist. Hey, I just left Atlanta. Woo, I'm so glad to get away from those N-words. Boom.
I'm not even supposed to laugh right now. So.
A lot of gay N-words there too. Can you guys explain that to me? And then the crowd just goes,
"You having an unnatural allegiance to losers does not like you."
No, truth be told, I actually had a 55-year-old gay ex-con last night heckle me, but then afterwards wanted me to buy me a drink. So it was a weird experience. He had a prison tattoo of Snoopy. It's what a night. Not what a night, but because it ended right there, just to be clear. Sorry, this was supposed to be the respectful, intellectual conversation. My bad.
Boskar has just been summoned. My God, this is why life's not fair. Because if it was fair, I'd be in the same place Ryan was when this Snoopy tattoo convict guy was hitting on him, and I would be instigating way more shenanigans. That's what DEI is really about, ladies and gentlemen. Can we diversify your spaces to have me in more places instigating uncomfortable situations for Ryan while he's hosting a trivia night?
Joe Rogan might have a guest on that would probably tell you could do that by some sort of astral projection.
Dude, do you do DMT? No.
No, but you asked me, but I can't fully explain how it is that Joe Rogan helped, a lot of people say help decide the election. Now, apparently today or yesterday, Tim Walz got asked by a reporter about how Kamala Harris didn't appear. And he seriously had to say, no, I don't think Kamala being not being on Joe Rogan decided the election. But isn't that a fascinating place for America to be, that Joe Rogan helped it potentially
But
determine?
can we talk about that for a second?
Sure.
I'm being totally serious.
Yeah.
She wasn't on Joe Rogan,
No.
but she's done other shows that are relatively large in scope. She's
Yep.
done The Breakfast Club, didn't do well for her. And she actually went on Shannon Sharp's show. Now, people seem to forget it, and this is going to sound like Kamala defense. It's more of a common sense defense of why people might want to do things instead of going, duh, Rogan's so big, duh. It's like, okay, he is, but people forget that, and I don't know why people forget this. What was the knock on her? She's not black. She's not black because she's half Indian, even though she did all the black shit. So she doubled down on black shit, and she went on Shannon Sharp's show. Who has the biggest YouTube interview in the history of the channel? Sure as fuck ain't Joe Rogan. It's Shannon Sharp. And then you get the crickets, right? Because what? He's not white. It's like they want to say that, but I can't take it seriously because he's not white. It's like, okay, well then say that. I have more respect for you if you say that, because then you're being honest. But to say that, oh, you should have done Joe Rogan because he's a bigger show. At the time, the biggest thing on the block was fucking telling all the fucking Shannon Sharp.
Was that before or after a sex tape came out?
Oh, dude, was it? I don't know. Because well, the sex thing happened after Cat Williams. That was after Cat Williams, and the Monique show was relatively large as well. It's just his show now is just, let me go on here and just talk reckless about people in showbiz and, you know, make sure they never come on your show again. I don't know how long of a lifespan he has to be able to do that, and he's not a very good interviewer, and his show is only about an hour long. But go back and watch that Cat Williams. It's fucking hilarious. It is hilarious. When he starts talking about Puffy and calls him a big dick deviant, that shit is fucking comedy. But it's like, okay, well, why does she have to go on Joe Rogan when, you know, the now president is saying she's not black in front of a room full of Negro reporters?
Well, I don't think that she's good at that format whatsoever.
Because she's always drunk.
Well, maybe she should switch drugs, because like she still seems like, because there's a time she seems really juiced up and slurs her words, but then, you know, for the most time it seems like that she's reading off a cue card. And so in podcasts, when it's all about hanging loose and just vibing and just shooting the shit, she sounds so ridiculous. Like if she were on Joe Rogan, it would not have been a good episode. Like, say what you want about the Trump, you know, 3-hour bullshit-a-thon, but at least suited Trump's strengths more than it was Kamala.
I mean, she could have went on there, but he's not real. Hey, if he can't talk to black men, what is he going to say to a black woman? Your hair's really
preach.
It's really nice, like white girl hair. Can I smell it? Like, what is he going to say? Like, what? I can't think of a black woman that's been on this show. I can maybe Jada Pinkett. I don't know who's, like, seriously. Someone Google that. I know there's fucking. They got an erection.
Was there a female fighter he had on?
Most of those female UFC fighters are like UFC does not have. And I'm saying this knowing that someone's probably.
You're saying it's got a diversity problem?
It's got a you're not getting their best problem. If you're the best athlete, you haven't wanted to get punched in the face for a long time, for generations. If you think about, like, when people talk about guys like Mike Tyson didn't fight anybody during his heyday, there's a lot to be said about that, because by the time he was fighting people of record, they were a little older. They were like in their 30s, and he was 21, knocking the shit out of these old men. And he was pretty fast, pretty good athlete. But if you're 5'10" and 200 pounds of muscle, you're probably going to play football. you're not going to get punched in the face. Who wants to get punched in the face for $100 a night until you get to maybe making $1,000?
That's my trivia night right there that you're describing.
Right? Like I'm being serious. Like, watch UFC and ask yourself, is this just a cat that wanted to get punched in the face?
Yeah.
Because I feel like this is a cat that just wanted to get punched in the face. Why are all the good boxers coming from Eastern Europe? Because they're literally producing boxing freaking athletes. You know, the United States, you live in a place where there were fighters that came out of it. Where's the boxing gym by your house? Not the UFC sponsored gym, but the boxing gym or a real fight gym that smells funny inside.
Yeah.
You don't know.
No, those places are dying.
Yeah. So, you know, who the fuck is fighting UFC? It's somebody that's like, I want to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
So I don't know too many mildly attractive women that want to get punched in the face for fun, kind of. And colored ones? And colored ones? Come on.
But if Mark Zuckerberg is doing it now,
it speaks to the who wants to get punched in the face.
Yeah.
You know, if the Grimes tweet is true, you know, he's getting punched in a lot of places. Punched in his fun button. So, you know, I don't yeah, somebody tell me who the black or Latina, dark skin Latina, because we can't have the white ones, fighter was that went on Joe Rogan's show. Someone said Candace Owens went on the show. Sure. She's an easy black woman to talk to. I would have a ball talking to Candace Owens.
Would you invite her on?
No, I'd want to have a private conversation with her first.
Ooh.
Because I think she plays for the camera too much. And I'm like, Candace, let's just be real for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Candace, come on. Are you dancing for these white people just a little bit? Just a little bit? Maybe a little soft shoe for them a little bit? You can be black right now. Tell the truth, Candace.
So let's hear your theory then on Joe Rogan's popularity.
Why do I think he's popular?
Yeah.
I think he's close to celebrity and people dig that. I think he's relatable. I've run into Joe Rogan before he was superstar podcaster, and he was pretty normal. He didn't have assistants. He was walking around downtown San Francisco. I think he might have been doing a show there. And he seemed like anyone else you would hang out with at a bar and meet and be like, oh, that Joe guy was kind of cool. He was kind of funny. I've watched episodes of his show where I found some of his fight commentary interesting. I do think he also lives in a world where, unless he has another person that's not afraid of him, like the Dave Chappelle episodes, I think are pretty good. Because those people just go, no, they're not afraid to tell him no. But if you listen to him talk about fighting, I think those, to me, are some of the better episodes he has, especially he's a bit of a Mike Tyson fan. So when he talks about Tyson or who's the guy that's the most wins right now? Floyd Mayweather or someone like that. Those to me are really good. Other than that, when he brings someone political on, I think he's a little timid. I've seen him push back on Jordan Peterson. I've seen him push back on the Dave Rubin guy. When Dave Rubin was a name people cared about. I don't know what it's like to sign a contract for $100 million to talk into a microphone. There's going to be certain rules to that. There's going to be emails you get. There's going to be conversations you have with higher ups that are probably uncomfortable at times. at a certain level, you're looking at your metrics. I am nobody in the grand scheme of things, and I'm constantly looking at my metrics of what's working and what's not working. I don't care that much about it, but I still look at it. So I think he's a bit of a complicated figure.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's all of anything. Now I think things have changed from a lot because of, which is another question I want to ask for you, because of the way he was treated during the Bernie Sanders thing. I don't think he was looked at as the ally that maybe he felt like he was.
Yeah, I mean, even when Ben Burgess talked to him, I don't think, you correct me if I'm wrong, he didn't make a 100% endorsement of Bernie, or
No,
did
he never did. He never. I think he said it kind of flippantly one day.
Right.
He would vote for Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, and in left media world, that was treated like a curse. If you remember, there were a lot of voices that said, you need to run away from that endorsement. You need to say, I don't want to have anything to do with Joe Rogan or his endorsement. So at that time, anything Rogan was like a kiss of death. So did that help steer him right? I don't know, but it probably didn't help.
No. I think he already had an opinion on liberals.
Yeah.
I think, because if you remember that kind of comedy crew that he was around with, oh God, what's the guy's name that moved to the UK? Does a lot of drugs too. White guy. It's Doug Stanhope.
Oh, okay.
Doug Stanhope was like every white atheist's favorite comedian for a long time. If you were an atheist, not necessarily a Sam Harris guy, but maybe like a liberal atheist, you probably really dug Doug Stanhope. And that was Rogan's, bosom buddy. And I think they lived in a world of kind of lefty libs for a while. Maybe they didn't dig it when those people got a little louder with what they didn't like. So I think he has an opinion of who these people are. And when the hate came down, he was like, well, fuck these people anyway, because these are the people that didn't get this joke or that joke, or, they won't let me call another man a fag, This is what I want to do with my freedom of speech.
Well, have you watched any of Rogan's recent stand-up specials?
Recent?
Yeah, he's done a few on Netflix in the last couple of years.
Recent?
Yeah,
the last Rogan I saw was when Bush Jr. was in office.
Oh, okay. So I prepping for the story, I watched one, and it is complete dog shit. It is just, he needs to be in a tiny room, sitting down with a computer, because when he's just on stage doing stand-up, it's just like the old man yelling at cancel culture and trans people thing. It's just really boring. And he looks really out of date.
So what is he saying?
Dude, just cancel culture is bad.
That's it.
He's like, I think I even put something in my story about this. Like he was like, yeah, Medicare for all is good. Education for everybody, free education, great. Chicks with dicks getting pregnant, fuck that. I didn't realize that was part of the deal.
You did, right. I thought that was from his show for some reason. I misconstrued it, so it's my bad.
Yeah, no, it's from his comedy special.
That's what he's mad about?
Yeah.
But he doesn't have to be the dad.
Doesn't.
He just doesn't want that baby to exist.
But yeah, his stand-up, and I honestly don't remember too much of his like early 2000s stand-up, but I think it was that same sort of like stoner humor, like Oh, what was his name? What was that like stoner comic that did? Was it Doug Stanhope that did the like? Or who am I thinking of? Goat Boy. Do you remember
Jim Brewer.
Jim Brewer? Yeah.
Yeah.
To me, he had that sort of vibe.
That's not funny. That is not funny.
Yeah.
Oof.
But now he's like an old, boomer dad yelling at the kids.
Oh man, that sucks. Do you think he's a pipeline to people like Andrew Tate?
Kind of. I think indirectly. It's interesting though. I remember talking to my nephew who was 14 years old and got into Andrew Tate just from playing Xbox. Like,
Fucking game was he playing?
there's some weird shit going on in Call of Duty.
Call of Duty, human trafficking.
Yeah. I think it can, if nothing else, through the algorithms. I mean, I think that algorithms are steering people a certain way, and
Yeah.
I'm fairly convinced that some of the rise of right-wing media has been due to the way the algorithms work. Because a lot of these companies don't care about which side wins; they care about making money. So they will throw the shittiest stuff at you just if it can keep your eyeballs.
It is. I don't know if are you a combat sports guy? Do you watch fighting at all? Are you a peaceful?
It's been a while. I did a few stories back when I was a sports reporter at the Chicago Tribune, where I went to UFC events that I got paid to do, but I don't watch it a ton myself.
If you watch even if you watch like weightlifting videos, just like how to lift properly and maybe different workout regimens and stuff like that, you will then see those people talking to right-leaning people. Because I think Joe Rogan exists in this universe, kind of back to that question you asked me, like, how do I think he blew up? He exists in a universe of I'm not left, I'm not right, I'm the common sense center.
Yeah.
And every dude that sounds like a Jan 6 nut job that I've ever met in real life always will say that before they say they voted for Trump. Right? I don't believe in left and right. It's like two wings of the same bird. Like if you say that, I know some right-wing bullshit's going to come out of your mouth. I know some racist shit's going to come out of your mouth. Like I'm just like, okay, when is it coming? You're at 5, 4. All right, there we go. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, now that I think about it, like, I think one thing about him is interesting is that in a certain sense, he's still stuck in the 90s. Like his sense, like a lot of his sense of humor.
Leave me alone.
And like his, sort of like an anything goes type of conversation and humor. And he is like often will use the same language that people did in the 90s. And he sort of, when things got more progressive, he rebelled against that because he's still in, LA in 1998 doing drugs with his friends. And that could be appealing to people because the 90s were sort of a more carefree era, for better or worse.
I mean, Harold and Kumar resuscitate Bush Jr. by doing Blow with him in part 2.
See, I missed that stoner movie.
What is it? The Harold and Kumar go to
White Castle
or something? They go to Guantanamo. Someone keeps
asking
about Curtis Yarvin. I know who Curtis Yarvin is. I don't know why you feel the need to ask that question so many times.
Oh, is he asking if he's if Joe Rogan is a gateway drug to Curtis Yarvin?
I don't know. Sure.
Oh. No, I mean, I think what's fascinating about this period with all these like YouTubers and manosphere influencers is that some of them started in comedy and have slowly crept into politics, and sometimes those lines blur.
But do you think that's because of the marketability now of political conversation? You don't have to read. You really don't have to read when it comes to political conversations, especially if you're going to talk about Democrats and Republicans. It's all vibes and feels.
Yeah.
That's why so many people do it. That's where all the view in this world. That's where all the views are. The views. It's like viewing your pubes.
Yeah. No. I mean, in a lot of sense, the world of politics has just become another more entertainment, you know, that you can comment on, and you can just have an opinion on, and whatever, it doesn't matter. It's just, you know, we're just talking here.
Yeah, and that's where I definitely think he exists with these other people that'll be like, they'll have, I've seen some of these shows because they'll have like maybe personal trainers that I enjoy because they have, you know, interesting things to say about, you know, getting to a certain level of hypertrophy for, you know, getting buff, because I'm old, Ryan, and I'm afraid the things are going to start breaking down soon. And then you'll see that person on, they'll be talking with other fitness guys, then you'll see them on with the guy that's just a thought guy, and all of a sudden fitness person is talking about politics, and it's like, I don't want to hear you talk about anything political, because this is where you're going to go off the rails and probably say something offensive. And, you know, Rogan to me definitely is the guy that showed people how to do those shows, maybe. I do think he gave a certain light to Jordan Peterson that wasn't necessarily there as bright in the US, especially outside of academia. I think Ben Shapiro was already a thing without Joe Rogan.
You know, you mentioned Peterson, and I think it's interesting because to me, Jordan Peterson was sort of like the dad that a lot of these young men never had or wish they had, to, you know, tell them what to do in life. Sort of like a kind of a ridiculous philosopher, where Joe Rogan has been like their bud.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just an everyday guy that you could feel like you kind of know, and you're kind of, you know, the sort of parasocial relationship. So I think he provides that feeling for a lot of young men.
Damn, Bill Cody, political podcast where unfunny comedians go to get rich. I feel seen.
Except the rich part, right?
Yeah, except for the rich part. But Gene Bajlan says so many daddy issues in the manosphere. I mean, yeah. Like, okay, so what did you say when your nephew got into Andrew Tate? Because that to me is like, if you catch your kid, like, what are you smoking, son? That doesn't look like a weed pipe. Is it methamphetamine? Like, what we need to have a talk there, son. I did something wrong here.
I mean, that's rough for me because I'm not his dad. I'm his uncle. And we were talking on Xbox Live. And it's one of those things where, like, I feel weird. I basically said, you might want to tell your mom that you're watching this stuff because it's really bad. And I did text my sister-in-law about it.
Did you? You told?
Yeah, I ratted out, man. I'm a narc. I'm total narc.
Your son is watching Andrew Tate, and I think you might want to check the closet for 12-year-old girls.
I said, because I care about women, and you're a woman, and so I'm sure he's on the straight and narrow now.
This is the best line ever. The state should mandate a 2-week waiting period for anyone purchasing podcast equipment for public safety reasons. You look, people need to understand how important podcasting is at this moment. When I was one of the bands we were in, I can't remember what band it was in. We were trying to buy a recording interface, and Guitar Center would sell these startup kits for music recording. You could get a Mac Mini, a monitor, an interface, and a really mediocre microphone for like $1,000. For $1,000, you're a rapper. That was a rap setup. And before that, it was there was this digital 8-track recorder that had like maybe 60 virtual tracks and a microphone for about the same price. But $1,000 was your entry level into being able to be your own musician. And I think it might be a little cheaper now with podcast stuff, but I guarantee you go to Guitar Center and they have like a little mixing board with a sound effects patch and a mediocre microphone. And it's like, and a light, right? And a camera or something. And here's your podcast startup kit. Cause that's where everybody wants to go to be famous. There was a time where you started a band to be famous. And look, we have $100 guitars and here's a $200 drum set and you can start your band and then you'll be famous. And then it was, okay, you want to be a rapper because everybody wants to be a fucking rapper. It will give you the free beat making program called Fruity Loops. And see, you laugh because you know someone that was like, hey, bro, I got this thing called Fruity Loops. Listen to this beat I made. And now it's, now I have my podcast starter kit that I got from Guitar Center. I'm going to go, be the next Joe Rogan.
Guitar Center, that is like the boxing gym of music now. People don't go to Guitar Center anymore, man.
You should go to Guitar Center. All right. They withstood the leveraged buyout. They're one of the few companies that is still standing from one of those things.
Nice.
But or you can go to Temu. I have seen the podcast starter kit on Temu for like $48.
Wow.
Yeah. That microphone sounds like this. So we're going to be talking about Joe Rogan today. You can't hear me? We're going to be talking about Joe Rogan. What do you mean? It's too loud. Is the sound blown out? You got to set of blown out. That's the sorry. But that's where it is right now. Someone always has a pod. I'm going to my 30-year reunion. And someone was like, oh, you should talk about your I'm like, no, because I know you people are going to laugh at me. Because I feel like if you say you do a podcast for a living, everyone thinks that you go on there and talk about high value men and women. Right? Like if you were like, oh, I'm a writer. Everyone thinks you're fucking Hemingway, and they go, oh, where can I find your stuff? And you go, online, and they go, oh, you're not serious. I'm like, whoa, that's fucked up.
No, the worst for me was back when I was a video game journalist. I would not tell any women that I wrote about video games. I would just say I was a writer, and I would stop it there.
But did everybody think you were Stephen King?
Oh, hell no. I'm not from Maine, motherfucker.
But did you feel you got judged a little differently if they're like, where have I heard of you? And you're like, I don't know.
Yeah, but then when I started writing for the Alternative Weekly, then I got some respect
at certain coffee shops, like only at a Blue
Bottle. Yeah, exactly.
You made sure
the kind of coffee shops where they would walk out if I said I listened to Joe Rogan.
Oh, you only went in those coffee shops.
Yeah.
Fuck poser.
Chicago, man.
Go into a Starbucks, own it. Who you write for Alternative Weekly? Never heard of it. Yeah, well, what do you do, fucko? Never heard of you either. You can tell I've heard that a lot in my life. By the way, people, worst insult you can ever tell someone. By far. Oh, you're a musician? What's your name? Never heard of you. Wow, you didn't have to say that. Didn't have to follow it up with that at all. Can
I tell you a random story?
Please.
I found out that this girl I dated back in the day when I was trying to hide the fact that I was a video game writer, was Hillary Clinton's email manager and started this company. And she just left it recently after a big union fight. Like the employees tried to unionize, and she laid off like 40% of them and left the company. That's there you go. Random story.
Derek Varn, thank you for the super chat. You didn't have to do that, but because you're a fucking beautiful human. I think Ryan may be right that this is tied to the decline of blue collar and even downwardly mobile college educated men. It's weird that even after this election, this shit is ignored. I think Varn is right. We've all had long conversations. You know, if you hung out in a room with all of us, this would probably be one of the longer late night conversations we'd have. And this is some serious work that I think you're doing. We had you on some months prior talking about the downwardly mobile male. What is is he aspirational for the downwardly mobile male?
I don't know if it's aspirational. Yeah, I mean, some of it is just the isolation of the downwardly mobile, you know. Maybe we talked about this before, but there was some statistic that came out recently that the percentage of young men that have a friend that they see regularly is only like half. So that is a lot of time for men to not have friends. And so I think someone with like Rogan or these other guys, Theo Vaughn, whoever, kind of replace that a bit. Somebody that you can spend time with for hours a day. You know, there's just the loneliness crisis.
So you think he's just kind of an appendage of a bigger discussion about loneliness?
I think that's part of it. I mean, I think he has had an interesting life and he has interesting guests on, and I think he knows the kind of conversations that could be interesting to a lot of people. I mean, he is or more was very intellectually curious. And so to be able to talk about stupid shit, to have conspiracy theorists on, to talk about UFOs, talk about drugs, it's fun, man.
I mean, he's a ridiculous man. If you listen to his UFO BS, which I can't take him that seriously on because I don't know how seriously he's taking it, right? Then he has Neil deGrasse Tyson on, who says to him, I thought the best line ever, which that's a black man and he had on, but we all know deGrasse Tyson has transcended race and is more. There's a handful of Negroes that have transcended race, right? Prince, Neil deGrasse Tyson, Michael Jordan. Like those are all the guys that could fuck your sister. Like there's a small handful. I don't even know if Obama's trans.
Drake used to be. No, I don't know.
Drake could probably fuck somebody's sister for a hot minute. Now, after the Kendrick thing, they would not have Drake in the house. Treat him like a fucking vampire. No, you can't come in, Drake. Away with you.
Has Drake ever been on Rogan?
I don't know, but he wouldn't count. Halvesies don't count.
And he's Canadian.
Oh, God, a Canadian halvesy? Sorry. I'm sure all five of you are going to be mad.
You sound like you're doing your own race science over there. I don't know, man. I'll just talk about the race science on Rogan. Wow.
Jason has the Terry Bollea. If you don't know who that is, ladies and gentlemen, that is Hulk Hogan. So anybody comparing me to Hulk Hogan, I'm doing something right.
Although Hulk Hogan also famously used the N-word.
Yeah, just like me.
We coming for you, nigga.
There you go. Just in case you didn't know, I always have one in the chamber. Keep an N-word in the chamber ready
to See, Rogan needs to have you on, man. Let's make it happen.
Oh, why? He doesn't need me. He doesn't need. Everyone he has on, it's either I'm a fan of you or it's strategic.
Yeah.
Like, no, he's not going to debate anybody. Why would he? He doesn't need to. He doesn't need to have me on to question his fuckery.
That's what you would do? You would debate him if you were on?
There's some things there's some things I couldn't let go, right? Like, dude, you said that Jake Paul is a good fighter. That's not true at all. You know it's not true. And I need you to tell me and your listening audience that you got paid by Jake Paul to say those things about him being a competent fighter.
By Big Fight?
By Big Paul. He went on this whole thing about when Jake Paul knocked out that one black dude that was like 40 years old that needed a paycheck, that was punch drunk from years of UFC fighting, that was never a fucking boxer. He was like, but he hit him with a feint and did it. It's like, come on, Joe. Come on. Let's just be honest for a second. Mike Tyson hit him one time and he ran on his tippy toes away in that match. Stop. Just stop. He wanted to fight a 60-year-old man with bad knees.
So you wouldn't go after his politics. You would just want to talk fight.
We'd start there.
Okay.
And then we have 3 fucking hours. That's an hour right there of us talking fight bullshit. Right? And then we can get into, hey, Joe, when you had Donald Trump on, you really let him talk all that crazy shit? You didn't question any of it? Like, not even that much? Right? Word? Word?
I was more bothered by the Musk interview, to be honest.
The whole Social Security shit?
Yeah.
Like, you want to be like, word, Joe? Like, none of that shit? You didn't want to, you were like, oh, word, that sounds good. Like, you treated Dave Rubin way worse than that shit.
Yeah.
And
he treated Musk like he was. I mean, Musk is probably the second most powerful person in the world right now.
Yeah, 1A.
Yeah, exactly. Two-headed monster there in the White House right now.
I do agree with this. I had Eric Blanc on the other day, who wrote a phenomenal book about union organizing. A very hopeful book in a dark time, I think. But he said something that I 100% agree with. He said, I think Elon Musk is torpedoing all the goodwill that Trump had going into this term. I was like, I agree. And Joe Rogan doesn't help. I think Joe Rogan's time on top too, because he's a little more transparent with his, I don't know if you agree with this, his allegiance to his new found class position. There's no more ambiguity. He's no longer a regular guy. Don't let the t-shirts fool you. You know, that motherfucker is rich. He's got fuck you money. And he gives a fuck about labor and your Meemaw's Social Security. Right? Like, it's that video is gone.
I don't remember who I was which episode it was that he was basically throwing out his libertarian bona fides, where he was like, don't tax me, motherfucker. You know, basically the whole like, I'm an economically conservative, socially liberal kind of guy.
You know who else fucked him up? His homies. His homies are his fucking downfall. Because they sucked, first of all. And their comedy was just based off of, we want to talk about 90s. It's just 90s stereotype jokes.
Right.
You never watched that fucking Kill Tony shit? It's like, oh, we got a cripple and a Negro. What are you guys going to do in a battle? You know, you're going to talk about the cripple not being able to fuck and the black guy having warrants. Like, okay, that's not that funny.
It's also really wild that the Kill Tony people were at the RNC to warm up Trump. I mean, that just killed me. It
was a dagger, I think, for Rogan. Look, he got dethroned, and not by Theo Von, who I also think is stupid. There's nothing funny about Theo Von.
Stupid, but more harmless, I think, than
That's
like
how he
the
comes
Rogan
off.
show.
It's like, I'm just
Yeah.
a harmless fucking eyes don't know no better. You might as well talk like I don't know nothing about no niggers and rights and gays. Do they put their pee-pees in the little pee-pee hole?
All
Is
right,
that what
he's
they
not
do?
he's not John Rocker. He's not like
You pulled out a fucking
yeah. Sorry, I love the 90s Atlanta Braves.
when I go to New York, all I see is colored people and terrorists.
No, Theo Vaughn isn't that bad. I mean, did you see the episode where he had Trump on?
No, but I saw when he had JD Vance on, talked about you can't get any good cocaine in America anymore. Oh, shut the fuck up, Opie.
That'll make you an owl, homie.
I don't. He bought his way in. Don't dig him, man. Don't dig that fucking mullet bullshit. Just don't dig it at all.
Do you think that the Jackass guys, if they would have been around, if they were a little younger and come up in this era, do you think they would have a political podcast?
That's a good question, and I have to think about it because, and I have to think about it, and I'll think out loud with you. The Jackass guys are a visual thing.
Yeah,
that only
they were kind of dudes hanging out though,
but they're visual dudes. They're dudes hanging out in a rednecky way. What I mean by rednecky way is there's this thing when you're I don't know how much time you've ever spent in rural environments where you do things like blow shit up for fun or shoot shit for fun.
I shot a dead cat once.
There you go.
Shameful.
Right there. So you know what I'm talking about. And Jackass exists in that, but with skaters. So it's even more unique. So it's like skating is always, what's the next trick I can do that's going to be the wow factor thing? What can I jump off of? What can I do a flip off of? How many rotations in the air can I go before I break my fucking neck? So you're talking about guys that are a little out there anyway. And then you're giving these people license to get high out of their mind on a combination of a lot of things. And then think about crazy shit to do to each other, shoot each other with paintball guns in the dick. Take a shit in a toilet at a hardware store. The fake baby on top of the car thing. Like that show really is a visual thing.
So was Fear Factor though. So was Fear Factor. So was UFC.
So is Fear Factor, but it's a different thing because I think Fear Factor is still him going, you don't have to do this. And people going, oh, I need the money. Or why wouldn't I do this? It's either fame or money. Whatever it is, it's going to seem kind of thin to this guy because he's like, well, I wouldn't eat donkey cum for $10,000. Like, you don't have to do that. Whereas with the Jackass guys, they're going to eat the donkey cum and they're probably not making anywhere near $10,000. Steve-O said he was living on the couch when he started doing that shit. So these guys were already like hopelessly fucked up. And it was like, let's put a camera on these kind of hopelessly fucked up people with a few people in this group that have some mild common sense and comedic timing and see what happens. And it was a bit of a phenomenon. I don't think you can put a microphone in front of those people, as you've seen, because Steve-O has a podcast, but it's not him by himself and it's not him with his Jackass friends. It's him with a few other people that have a little more common sense. And Steve-O's sober and he's a different man now, sober, than he is. Like, I don't know if you watched the Bam Margera thing, The Curious Case of Bam Margera on Amazon. Steve-O's got a part in there and he's pretty sober when he speaks. So is Johnny Knoxville when those guys have cameras in front of them. I met Ryan Dunn at a show and with Chris Pontius was there in LA.
Now you sound like the Joe Rogan show.
Well, sorry, my life is better than this. My life is dope and I do dope shit. It's a team with microphone. Does it sound okay? But they're chill cats, and I don't think that they really wanted to do much of this yapping. I think they wanted to do more ridiculous bullshit, because you don't have to yap when you're gonna get, shot in the nuts with a fucking pellet gun.
I don't know, man. I think if Theo Vaughn can make it big doing the podcast game, I think Johnny Knoxville could.
Theo Vaughn would never get shot in the nuts. That was
There's
not
still time.
The podcast is saving young men's testicles. I want you, next time you walk down.
That's what they told Kamala Harris that the Joe Rogan episode would be called.
I don't think, Madam President, I don't think it would be good for you.
Yeah. By the way, what do you believe about the Kamala Harris thing? Because Kamala's people say that Joe Rogan said no. Joe Rogan said Kamala's people fucked it up.
Can it be both?
It could be.
I can see. Again, I don't think Joe Rogan wants to talk to Kamala Harris.
No.
You know who else he doesn't want to talk to? Vivica Fox, Halle Berry.
Oh, we're going
There's a
back
long
there.
list
Okay.
of black chicks he doesn't want to talk to. There's a long list of black chicks I don't want to talk to. I mean, he's not alone. Let's not fucking. I don't.
He should.
Joe, I don't want you to think you're alone, brother. All right. You think Joe Rogan wants to talk to Brianna Joy Gray? Fuck no. Why?
That would have been a good one though.
No, it wouldn't. Do you want to talk to Brianna Joy Gray? I don't see you on that fucking show. No, you don't want to do that. No. Yeah. And it's okay. It's okay. Both people will be fine. But no, he didn't want to talk to. Maybe he didn't want to talk to Kamala Harris. I don't want to talk to Kamala Harris. If they were like, if Pascal sent me a message tomorrow and said, Jay, we got a line on Kamala Harris, I'm like, I'm not talking to Kamala Harris.
Would you talk to Tim Walz?
Oof, no. I don't really care to. I'm good.
What about Barron Trump?
Barron Trump?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes. I need to talk to the brains behind the operation.
Oh, God.
I'm going to be like, talk to me, kid. I have so many questions. Have you ever talked to a rich person's kid?
Probably.
Me and Ben on Valentine's, we do this thing where we go to the Rainbow in Hollywood. And we invite people, come to the Rainbow with me and Ben. And we'll fucking sit around and be single and commies on Valentine's Day in this fucking surreal environment. And it was a Friday night. And all these people were out. And this very drunk British man who had been hanging out with the owner, so he's a somebody, he's not just a dude, walks over to the table and goes, this is the most interesting group of people I've ever seen here in my life. Right? And then he starts doing a mild roast, and then I may have some comebacks of me and the guy talk, and then he introduces us to his son. His son is with him, whose son is of age, but his son is young, and they're both wasted. And so there's a waitress that I know there, and we're talking, and the son, I guess, kind of fancies this woman as well. And we're talking. And the son I was like, well, when did you move here? He goes, oh, about 6 years ago. And I was like, oh, so you did your high school here? And he goes, yeah, but I went to a one-on-one school, And then Ben goes, no, I don't know. What the fuck is a one-on-one school? I'd never heard of that. Have you heard of that?
No.
Yeah. It's
isn't that called tutoring?
It was a school apparently where it's just one teacher to one student. But he said it like, oh, don't you, we all go to those. No, we don't.
Wow.
Not at all. And I know Barron Trump is going to be like that. And I just want to sit back and let him tell rich kid cruel intention stories all day long.
Well, we gotta try to make that happen too. We gotta get you on Joe Rogan. We gotta have Barron Trump on. We got a lot of work to do.
Who else do we need to have on? Where we gotta get you?
Well,
on?
Apparently black women. Come on, put your money where the mouth is.
I just want you to know.
Brianna Joy Gray. Come on, let's do it.
You look. You say that name one more time, it's like fucking Candyman.
Force the vote. Still on.
Oh, look, she gets stronger with every white man she crushes with the force the vote conversation. Her powers have grown so strong since she yelled at Jamal Bowman. You, my friend, it's like Highlander. You ever seen the end? Remember they chop the head off and they get the shot? That's what.
Wait,
happened.
did you just call Jamal Bowman white?
No, I called him.
Oh, okay.
No, she got stronger with him because he's an actual congressman. If he was a regular black man, nothing would really happen. It would be like a fart. But but because he's a congressman, he was part of the squad. It was like Highlanders. It's like, but that's the level of racism in those conversations too. Is that you have to be a black congressman for her to get the full strength. But you will get an email, and you should go on that show, and just be ready. Wear a cup. And if you do get that email, can you send me an email and be like, dude, no way.
Yeah, somebody's got to replace good old what's his name?
Oh, the guy that
Bad Faith.
Sent a text message or something.
Yeah, he got me too.
With his dick on it or something. What was it? Just a text message? Like, do you want a bone or some goofy shit like that to a minor? Was it a minor?
What was his name? Johnny Knoxville?
Johnny come lately. I always call him the wrong name, and then Ben corrects me, and I feel bad about it because he kind of knows those people, so I don't want to talk bad. But I think is his name. I almost said Trevor. Is that he's the Felix one?
No.
See, I don't. Which one is he? Matthew?
No.
Connor?
No, he was he was the Asian one.
Oh, Todd?
No. No, he had the God. Why can't
Virgil, Texas?
Virgil, Texas. Yes.
Yeah, that's his real fucking name. My ass. His name's Todd. Todd Tanaka. I don't know if that's his real name. I don't know. Nick Mullen. Virgil, Texas. Would you replace Virgil, Texas?
Yeah.
Do you think you're big enough to replace Virgil, Texas?
No.
I mean, you're writing some big pieces.
Oh, yeah. You didn't mention that I'm now a columnist with Unheard.
I heard they pay actual money.
Yeah. And I'm going to be, sorry, I'm like outroing myself right now, but
no, please. It's been an hour and a half.
Yeah. I'm going to be at New York City. You can get tickets. Unheard, the debut of the US edition. The KGB bar, I think on April. Is it?
Oh,
April
no
Fool's
shit.
Day? Yeah.
I love the K. That's a cool little bar.
Yeah, I've never been.
Oh, it's a cool little bar. We went there when Sublation had their launch party.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a dope little spot. And
yeah, so it's going to be me and other writers who are much bigger than me. But you can get tickets somewhere.
You don't have a link yet?
I do. Who's got the time?
Ryan, I appreciate you coming here and shooting the shit with me. I actually had 7, or at least all bullshit aside, I had 15 questions. I asked you 2 of them.
I didn't know the rest of them. I didn't know. I didn't know the answers.
I always appreciate your candid honesty, and I look forward to my next trip to the East Coast to see you in real life. Yeah,
man. And also, like I mentioned before, I'm doing this entire Manosphere whole year of Jacobin and man stories. So Stay tuned to that.
Dude, I've pitched things to them and they're just like, no. It's a paper bag test over there, Jack.
The king's sitting over here now. So
no, I've only pitched like one thing. I'm writing. I don't know if I sent it to you. I wrote this thing about a young man in steroids for damage that's coming out next month in their physical issue.
That's cool.
So yeah, that's where it's at.
I've pitched damage and I can't get in.
Yeah, well, it's like gang shit at this point.
Yeah.
You're one of those. Well, look, go to sleep. You're a new dad. Congratulations on that as well. But I think the last time you were on here, you weren't a dad yet.
Oh yeah, I got little Lincoln. He's a big boy. I love him. I love being a dad. God bless.
I'm excited to continuously hear your new dad stories. I love new dad stories. So have a good night. Thank you, Ryan. And
all right, thanks everybody for having me on.
Peace. Ryan Zickgraf. Wherever you are watching or listening to the show, there's links in the description. No champagne room tonight because this is Wednesday night. Tomorrow night there'll be a champagne room, and I'm hoping that maybe, just maybe, we can convince Derek Varn to join us. Gene Boslin already said he's going to join us for the champagne room since he's I don't want to say he's the guest. He's just, the person that has all the knowledge about the PKK. So that is tomorrow night. I'm kind of excited for that. So how much fun would a champagne room be if we got Gene and Derek? Just thinking about it, I'm excited. I don't know who Zoe Witz is. This is hilarious. Brianna Joy Gray with that peanut butter skin. She is. I don't want to say. If I say it, she's gonna crucify me if I say this. She's a very attractive woman. Stefan does not get to join us in champagne rooms because it is far too late or early in the morning for him in the UK. See, Tony Red says Gene and Varn tomorrow. Cool. Gene on the main show. Champagne room. Let's try to bring Varn in. Steve says no oil checks. If you want to know what an oil check is, then you have to listen to last night's champagne room where we talked about first dates, do's and don'ts. Oh, she is going to have Ryan Zickgraf on her show and eat him alive. Don't do it. Dudes, don't be weird. I was taught no oil checks in high school wrestling. It just didn't seem like an appropriate thing to do to another person. That's what we're talking about. We're talking about the wrestling version of the oil check. But you got to watch the show if you want to understand the context, because I can't even get into it because I didn't talk about that stuff at all. About oil checks. I don't want my oil. I check it in my car. Don't check my personal oil. Okay. Oh wow! Charles Ghost said he has oil checked on the mat. So in a wrestling move, getting your oil checked is if you use preferably these two fingers and you shove them in the anus of your opponent, and then control him or her with that move. So that's what it is, and it's a real wrestling move. Go ahead and go to YouTube and write oil check wrestling, and you will see it. You might even see a tutorial. Tony Red says, wait, which two fingers? These two give you the most strength, so it's like bowling, right? You want to use your middle and whatever this finger is. What do they call this finger? I don't know. I've been single that long. I don't know what this is called. The Eric Clapton, they call it. I don't know why they call it. Bad Lefty says so puppeteering. You can call it puppeteering. I want to read so many of these. The guy Tang finger. Derek says, giving yourself pink eye. Oh my God. Wait, can I sue the guy who asked me if I changed my own oil during an interview? Yeah, it's a thing. I can't believe I'm talking about, I can see like the viewer count and it's gone up significantly since we started talking about kind of sexually assaulting someone on a wrestling mat. Jean Bajlan calls it the Prussian pegging. I would not. You've cultivated quite the audience, Jason says Prairie Fire. Before I go, I want to say this. Sometimes I am terrified at the things that come out of my mouth because I understand the world in which this show exists. That being said, people that watch this show know that you never know what you're going to get. We're never going to necessarily follow the news. We're not going to do a lot of the he said, she said stuff that is actually very popular. And sometimes you're going to have a guy on to talk about why you hate the term yacht rock. That was an architect of the genre that people call yacht rock. You guys tuned into that show, which I really appreciated. That for me was a big deal. And then we're going to get back to some of the more, fun topics. Like I think this Joe Rogan topic is kind of an important topic because, why is this dude the most important guy in media right now, or one of? The old guard figures of button-down suit types are gone, and even those guys just sound so insanely reactionary. Go back and watch any news program from the 90s. And granted, there was always a few reactionary people that were on those shows. But compare that to the way people talk now, everything sounds like Springer. Everything is just midday talk show shenanigans. Even the news. So tomorrow we're going to have a very important conversation about the end of a long-time leftist movement, the PKK. Sean Moon says Rush Limbaugh had a TV show, but he was on radio a lot longer, brother. A lot longer. I wish someone could pull the string and get me on Joe Rogan. That would be so funny. But I don't know if I could talk to that dude for 3 fucking hours. I'd rather him talk to Brianna Joy Gray. You can make that happen, then the internet will literally implode. Can't stand them. Okay, I gotta go. You guys are fucking going off in this chat, and I want to go because I'm fucking exhausted. Wait, what do you do with the wife? You check your own oil when the wife is taking too long? You hit your own fun button? Is that what you do? Oh man, don't let that guy get his hand in the chip bag. Oh man, are those fucking jalapeno cheddar Cheetos? They were until you asked. Get your own bag. We know what you do. Milk your own prostate. If you listen to this show, you really are missing out on being part of the live chat. And I understand it's like, oh, I work. I get it. And I try to do more stuff at different hours of the day so everybody can get a chance to be a part of the chat. That's why I'm doing so much during the day. I want you guys to be a part of the insanity that is the live chat. Trying to keep a straight face is always a challenge on this show. Checking one's own oil is some real hot Cheeto behavior. I talked to a woman today on the phone about a mutual friend we had, and then we got into another conversation, and I had to remind her that she is literally the queen of hot Cheeto behavior. She's like, don't hee me. You know what the fuck you do. You do some fucking hot Cheeto and Taki shit. So stop it. Some fucking cherry, Dr. Pepper, hot Cheeto, Taki bullshit. No. Not dealing with it. All right. Thank you guys. Goon your own. I keep trying to end the show. Someone says Jason, she's not indigenous. She is just a regular Mexican American. That is the definition of hot Cheeto behavior. I wish I could show you the person in question because you guys would be like, oh damn. I'd be like, yep, hot Cheetos. Would you risk it? And everybody would be like, oh, I don't know. Exactly. That's how they get you. Prairie Fire says, I used to feel safe around potato chips. Does she wear basketball shorts? No. There's different. Look, the hot Cheeto comes in a lot of different varieties, right? And we've all eaten hot Cheetos. There's places in San Diego that will charge you an exorbitant amount of money for a burrito with fucking hot Cheetos in it. And you're going to pay for it and get all fucking fired up and mildly erect. Yeah. Fuck that shit. Hot Cheetos can be sexy. This person is fucking hot. Hot. Doesn't have a long butt. Shit is fucking fat. Everything's juicy. Works out. Hot Cheeto behavior. Can't trust it. Don't do it. You'll want to do it. And then the bag of Cheetos comes out. You're like, are those flaming hot? And just walk away. But you won't walk away because you'll see all the stuff. Titties, bam! Face, pop! You'll ignore the warning signs. We've all done that. The flesh is weak. Jason, is there a goth ghost pepper chip waiting for me in Mexico? There is some very attractive women down here eating some fucking Takis and hot Cheetos right now. Gothed out, everything banging. They'll love you, Kowalski. I fucking met you in real deal life. They'll love that old aw shucks white guy from the Midwest shit. You will be knee fucking deep. And then in a month, you'll call crying. What's wrong? I thought, she's so crazy. Oh, you ignored my warning because she smiled at you? Oh. And you heard fucking cheeks clap and you lost your fucking mind? Oh. The flesh is weak, Kowalski. You're not ready. You are not. You think you're ready? You're not prepared, brother. No. Had I never met you, maybe I think it's funny to send you to those wolves. Oh, no. Don't come. I'm like Kamala Harris. I gotta do the Kamala because that's you right now, Kowalski. This is you.
Do not come.
Don't do it.
Do not come.
And not at all.
I'm gonna come.
That's you too.
Hello.
That's you too. Antonio says, I don't know anyone that ate Cheetos outside the state. Antonio, they sell Cheetos at the 7-Eleven here. They sell Cheetos at the 7-Eleven. Do they sell regular ones, Antonio? Can I get jalapeno cheddar Cheetos at the 7-Eleven? No, I cannot. I can get two kinds of Cheetos, Antonio. I can get hot Cheetos, dangerous, or regular Cheetos, safe. Which ones do you think are moving? You know the answer. All right, I definitely have to go now. You guys, it's gone to Kowalski. You can come down here if you want to, but I'm just letting you know. I just don't think. Come if you want to, man. But I'm worried about you, brother. Have a very good night. I'll see you guys tomorrow.